In this video, I'm going to go over how to overcome a losing streak in sports. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, I'm a performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now these tips are for athletes specifically, so they're for you if you are an individual athlete, but they'll also apply to a team as a whole. Now when we're wanting to overcome a losing streak, we first have to recognize that losing streaks happen, right? But what we need to be able to do is we need to make sure that we are addressing any sort of technical parts of your game that might be contributing to this losing streak, while also making sure that your mindset stays strong and that you have the correct mindset to go out there and break through this losing streak. Which is why the first tip I have for you is you want to shift your mindset. Now, when we're focused on wins and losses, which is the most natural way to be thinking as an athlete, this is where we can find ourselves starting to press if we're currently in a losing streak. An example of this is a tennis player who is struggling to get a win, right? Maybe they get some games that they win whenever they're playing a match, but they haven't won a match in a while. What can naturally happen is as they continue to play and they continue to show up to matches, they start to press more and more. The reason that they start to press is because they're so focused on overcoming the losing streak. And this is where it can feel a little contradictory for us, because in order to overcome a losing streak, we first need to shift our mindset off of the win or the loss altogether, and we need to focus on how we go about winning. Now what that means is you need to be more process focused when you play. Two of the main reasons why a losing streak hurts us so much is because it hurts our confidence, right? So we're not believing in ourselves as much. And then also, like I mentioned a few seconds ago, it leads to pressure. So you start to press when you're showing up to games in the future. Now both of those are caused by us focusing so much on the results of our games. But if we can instead focus on the process, so focus on how we go about winning, that's going to lead to more confidence, but it's also going to lead to less pressure and less stress in the moment. So you first want to shift your mindset. Shift it off of the result. Don't even worry about breaking out of this losing streak right now. All you want to be focused on is how do you show up every single day, whether it's practice or whether it's a game, to get better and then also to perform your best. So going back to that tennis player example, the tennis player should show up to the match focusing purely on how do they play each individual point to the best of their abilities. If they do that, and then they do that for the game and then the set, and they do that for the entire match, what ends up happening is they put themselves in a really great chance to win, which would break out of that losing streak without having to focus solely on that losing streak. The next tip is you want to make sure you are rebuilding your confidence. Now, as I said a second ago, when we are in a losing streak, right, when we're having a tough time catching a break and getting a win right now, naturally confidence will reduce. The reason that confidence reduces is because confidence relies on us feeling like we can go out there and perform well. If we haven't been winning a lot recently, so we are experiencing a losing streak, it's difficult to get that feeling. It's difficult to have the trust in ourselves that we can go out there and perform well if we haven't been performing well recently. But you have to make sure that you keep confidence high. Something I talk to a lot of athletes about in one-on-one coaching, which, by the way, if you are interested in learning more about the one-on-one coaching I offer, I've put a link to that in the description below, is that what's more important than, wins or losses or making a mistake versus not making a mistake is being able to show up to the next game with confidence. Because when you show up with confidence, that's what leads to the win. That's what leads to the loss if you're not experiencing a lot of confidence. That's what leads to more mistakes or helps you play a cleaner game. Because when you have confidence, you play more freely. When you play freely, you play naturally, and that's where you perform your best. So if you are currently experiencing a losing streak, we have to work on rebuilding this confidence. But how can we actually do that if you haven't been experiencing wins or a lot of success for yourself recently? Well, first and foremost, you have to make sure that your thoughts stay confident. Our thoughts are our own choice. It doesn't always feel that way, but we are in control of our thinking. Our thinking doesn't have to be a mirror of the situation or a mirror of how we've been performing recently, because if we allow that to happen, what ends up occurring is that our confidence will be destroyed since we're thinking things like, oh, I'm sucking recently, I can't play well, I can't catch a break, I'm not winning right now, I don't know if I'll be able to win, I hope I can go out there and play well. Those are not confident thoughts. If you can keep your thoughts confident, you're going to be able to play in a more confident way, which increases the chances of you performing well and breaking out of this losing streak. Something else you want to also do is make sure that you are incorporating visualization into your mental training routine. Because as I said just a second ago, confidence relies on us seeing ourselves perform well. We know that, right? When I have a bunch of good games in a row, or when I have a bunch of bad games in a row, that has a direct impact on my confidence, because in one example, I'm seeing myself do well. The other example, I'm seeing myself perform poorly. What we want to make sure of is that even though you are, not currently seeing yourself win, you may not even be seeing yourself perform well recently in your games, you are at least imagining yourself performing well in the future. This is where we can use visualization. So on a daily basis and before your next game, you want to make sure you are visualizing yourself succeeding and performing well. The third tip is you want to address any technical issues. For the most part, losing streaks are just the result of, some unluckiness that happens in a game. Maybe you are pressing too much. Maybe you are not playing with a lot of confidence. So a lot of times it's more of a mental reason, or it's just simply because you've been playing some really good games recently, or some really good teams, recently. But sometimes it's a result of a technical issue. So let's say that you are a golfer and you've been experiencing a losing streak recently because, every time you get on the green, your putting has not been very good. So you've been 3-putting, you've been 4-putting, it's just not been very good for you. That might be a mental problem where you are getting too stressed for those putts. But it could also be a technical problem where your actual putting technique, or maybe the way you're reading the green, is not being effective right now. So you would want to address those issues. We have to be careful here. And the reason that I put this as the third tip is because I would focus on the first two initially. And then if the losing streak continues, then you want to address any technical issues. The reason that I say we want to look out for this is because most of the athletes that I work with, they are overthinkers. I am a huge overthinker myself, and I was when I played baseball. And when we are overthinkers as athletes, this lends itself to us overanalyzing and overthinking our mechanics. When we end up doing that, we start to nitpick, we start to tweak, we start to change, and then all of a sudden we're left with the fact that we've messed up our technique worse than our technique was messed up in the first place. So you want to be careful when you're going through and you are analyzing your technique, but it is an important part to you overcoming a losing streak because there could be something technical wrong with your game. The way that you can do this in the cleanest and the most efficient way possible is to first get some feedback from a coach. Does your coach see anything wrong with your technique right now? First, get that feedback. Next, you want to go back and watch some film, whether it's film from a game or film you take yourself when you're practicing and training, and you want to analyze your technique in an objective way. And then the third thing you want to do is you want to think back to the mistakes you've been making. Are there some patterns present? Are there some similarities? And then ask yourself, is there something mental that I can say is the reason this is happening? Going back to the putting example, if you notice, all right, I'm really struggling with my putts right now. Am I pressing too much with my putting? No, I feel pretty relaxed. All right, so now what technically could be wrong? So you want to go through and you want to analyze it like that so that we're not overthinking our technique, because a technical issue could be the reason that you're currently struggling to win. And then the last tip that I have for you is you want to set small, controllable goals going into your next performance. And this ties back to the first tip that I gave you, where we want to shift our mindset. So we're working to shift our mindset and take our attention off of the results and focus on the process. The way that we do this is with this last tip, where you set controllable and actionable goals for your next game. So for example, instead of saying that you want to go into your next game and you want to win, you want to break out of this losing streak, you would want to set more of a controllable goal that's part of the process. The reason we want to do this is because you don't need to convince yourself that you want to win. Of course you want to win. Every single time you show up to the field, the court, you get into the pool, you run on the track, every single time you want to win. But we need to make sure that right now, especially since you are experiencing this losing streak, you're focused on controllable goals, right? Goals that you know you can achieve, goals that you know will help you perform your best. And if you focus on those goals, you're giving yourself the best chance of winning that day, or at least playing well. And when you play well, that's what then contributes to your ability to win. But we have to be careful that when you're currently experiencing a losing streak, you don't get too caught up in the results, because that will only lead to more pressure, more stress, and ultimately more losing. So make sure that you change your mindset, you focus on the process. Make sure that you're working to rebuild your confidence. Make sure that you are going out there and analyzing any technical issues that you need to, and then working on them. And then lastly, going into your future games, let's set some controllable and actionable goals. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching or any of the sports psychology programs I have available, I've put links to those in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.